All right, good morning, everybody. I'd like to call the May 7th Public Works and Health and Human Services meeting to order. Would you please all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, moving on. The agenda, do we have any additions or changes to the agenda? Okay. Can I get a motion? I got a motion and support. All in favor, signify with aye. Opposed? Carries. All right, moving on to the minutes from April 2nd, excuse me. All right, I got a motion and a support. All in favor, signify with aye. Opposed? Okay, minutes moved. All right, next thing on the item is limited public comments. If anybody has a public comment, please come up and, okay, seeing none, I think we'll move on. All right, so the first thing, item we have is the juvenile justice millage, item number 6. Do we have someone who wants to speak on that?
Judge Pollard was going to be over here this morning. I just saw her run out the room to go look for Judge Pollard. Jeremy's here. She went to look for Judge, correct?
She did.
Yeah.
If you'd like, I can try and address some questions from the paperwork that you guys were given, or provide some information until she gets here.
Sure.
Or if you want to move it on the agenda.
That's up to the chair, but do you want to move it further down and wait
Yeah.
for her? Or do you want Jeremy to get started?
I think we should go ahead and move it.
Okay.
We can move it down to 11 and push veteran services to
That's
12.
just me, so that's okay. Veteran Services, I'm reporting on.
know.
So.
Yeah. Okay. All right, then. So, agency reporting, E-Tran. Brad.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the commission, Brad Funkhauser, I'm the Executive Director of E-Tran. First, welcome, Mr. Commissioner, to the E-Tran Board. Enjoyed speaking to you. We have a format today which I received and have been asked to report on. So there we go. Funding received from Eaton County for these years, this is a .25 levied millage that goes through the end of next year, 26. Collected in the year of 22 to 23, $1 million, $1.027 million. The year 23 to 24, just under 1.1, and we anticipate that to rise again to between 1.1 and 1.2 for this year, with an expected distribution of next month. Next slide, please. How does the county funding, what is the county funding used for? Public transportation in Eaton County basically is general population curb-to-curb demand response service countywide for all residents, for all public. As a public transit service provider, we are not able to distinguish between those that want to use the service. So school kids, people going to employment, those with disabilities are all members of the public and have equal access to that transportation. We also provide cross-county medical transportation services. And then, of course, over the last couple of years, you've heard reporting about the new connector services, the small vans that run between Charlotte and the Walmart in Delta Township, and separately, the van that runs in Grand Ledge to that same location and connects with both the Charlotte connector as well as the Route 3 in Delta Township. Next slide, please. How many residents, how many Eaton County residents, why don't I just read this slide? How many Eaton County residents benefited from the funding? All residents in Eaton County have access to the curb-to-curb demand response flex route connector services. But in addition to that, you have folks coming into the county for employment from other areas. So I would offer to you that it's probably above that. For the fiscal year '24, the rides totaled 82,155. To the commission, I offered to you, that is up about 15% from last year. Both the connector and the Route 3 extension in Delta are up significantly, providing additional access to feeder services and curb-to-curb services, and has really rebounded since the pandemic, which essentially decimated public transit in all regions. Next slide, please. Is all of the funding spent in Eaton County and/or for Eaton County residents? Yes, 100% of this is. In fact, I would offer this to the commission. We take great pride in partnering with the commission in the decisions that this board makes in leveraging funding. We've been able to use this funding to go and get seed money from the state on 3 occasions, partner with CATA and other agencies to actually expand the opportunities and resources as opposed to just paying straight dollar for dollar. So yes, absolutely, 100% of this is going to your residents. Next slide, please. List the geographic areas within Eaton County that the funding will serve. All areas, especially those municipalities listed. We have looked at different potential areas to serve in the future. And with our study over the last couple of years and survey from the public, we're able to really look at where we might be able to put new connectors in and look at those economic development opportunities as each of these communities are pulling potential business opportunities in. What is your, next slide please, what is your agency budget and/or budget for the program you are requesting? The E-Train annual budget this year is $2.6 million. That is up from years past, but it's also in line with additional operators that we have hired. We have increased their pay rate to be competitive with other CDL driver rates in the region. That has been a problem with E-Tran in the past. Turnover because of those rates. I think we're very competitive and we're able to hire off the street and provide full-time work at this time. Operational cash as of 4/30/25 is $687. We also have retained cash reserves by policy of the Board of Directors in the amount of $585 for emergencies and unplanned expenditures. This, ladies and gentlemen, you may recall that I'm also the CEO of CATA in Lansing and have experience with transit budgets, not only here but throughout the U.S. In my past experience, this is a very lean budget to operate the service that we are and continuing to expand the service and partnerships that we have. In fact, as I said before, quite proud of how we've spent this money wisely in the last couple of years to leverage new funding. That's the end of my presentation, Mr. Chair. Kept it concise.
Yeah.
Ready for questions.
Is any, yes, Commissioner.
Okay, when you refer to, this is probably going to be a question for Melissa maybe, but when you refer to our county operating funds, are you just speaking the money, the funds that are brought in through the millage?
That question is to me, correct?
Yeah.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I didn't want to step on your
No,
toes.
you're,
Okay.
Yes, that is correct. The .25 is levied by the county because E-Tran, through their interlocal agreement, cannot levy tax on their own. So it is .25 that comes through the county, and that is the funding. There is not additional funding on top of that.
Okay.
Correct. There is no general fund contribution
Yeah, that's what I
on
was
behalf of the
wondering
county.
if we'd popped
Sorry, I
any
didn't
in
mean
there.
to step on your toes.
No,
Nope,
it's
that's
perfectly
okay.
fine.
I like it when the answers line up and they're the same.
I've been around that .25 since 1998 when I ran first and lost. So I was
do
just
we have
wondering.
any other questions? Yes, Commissioner.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for your report. Concerning CATA and its association with E-Tran, I know it's a benefit, I know it's opened up routes, but do you see any more expansion into Eaton County with CATA, or is this all going to be E-Tran?
Thank you for the question, sir. We're at a critical juncture right now. By comparison, the millage rate in CATA, the CATA authority is 3.6, so that's 11 times. But it's also an urban area. This is not the same large bus transportation need that you have in Eaton County. So what we did is we looked at what is the need. And instead of trying to sell urban services to a rural agency, we've designed a system which takes care of both urban and rural. And so we are working with Delta Township in the next couple of weeks to look at a potential additional funding source, which would supplement the urban service in the future and potentially reallocate some of the rural service so you don't have duplication. This is why we wanted to put this on the ground. Quite simply, sir, you don't want large 40-foot buses out here doing curb-to-curb service.
Right.
It's not effective. In fact, you need smaller vehicles like vans. But conversely, Delta Township Route 3 extension over the last couple of years is exceeding 4,000 trips a month in just that extension area, but that's 20-minute headways, and that's really the spine of the urban service. So you need both, and in the past, I think it's been sold as one or the other. And I think this is a great application coming from the people of Eaton County to say this is an appropriate middle ground where you're not paying 3.6 or 3 mils, but you have to contribute more in the urban area to maintain that. So I do see expansion in the future if we can find funding for it.
And what's the average fare for a ride on E-Tran versus CATA?
So it's $1.50, and the urban service, CATA, is $1.25. I would expect sometime in the future that the three agencies, including Clinton, will have, my dream anyway, is to have regional fare where the public can get on the bus and travel from one place to another, and the agencies will figure out the math and the accounting behind it. I should note for you that seniors and students have half that fare in both situations.
All right, thank you.
Do we have any other questions? All right, seeing none. Thank you very much, Brad.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, next up is the Drain Commissioner's annual report.
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
Morning.
Morning, Commissioners. I apologize if I'm stuffy and start coughing. Just bear with me, please. Last year in 2024, the Drain Office had 3 petitions that came to fruition and are going to be starting in 2025. You have the Lee Drain, the Hobart Drain, and as everybody knows, the Bank Inter-County Drain. There's also the Hetrick Drain, but that is being solely funded by MDOT, so that's not a petition. Our open channel work, we had approximately 4.6 miles of open channel county drain that was cleared and maintained. Our enclosed tile work, there was approximately 1 mile that was repaired and replaced. And our spray program sprayed approximately 45 miles of open ditch, and that'll continue to grow as like the Hobart Drain, that'll be added to that project because there's a lot of open ditch on that as well. Our soil erosion program, we issued 106 new permits last year. Majority of those were in Delta Township. Our revenue from the soil erosion program last year was $109,193.50. In 2024, our total assessments was $5,532,317.27. That was the general sum up of my report. Does anybody have any questions?
Any commissioners have any questions? Yes, Commissioner.
Can you refresh my memory? I don't remember where the Lee and the Hobart drains are.
The Lee Drain is in Delta Township, primarily off of Willow, and it would be just west of the highway, the 96 highway overpass there. And then the Hobart Drain is in Eaton Rapids.
Thank you.
Yep. And I also would like to add, I distributed copies of the drain code to everybody. If there's any questions on that, I would definitely appreciate any input, or I was also told that if there's enough interest, we can conduct a Drain 101 class where we go over everything with everyone, the commissioners, and hopefully have a better, broader understanding of what the drain office does and our responsibilities and all that. So I'm definitely here for any questions, and if you need to email me or stop down the drain office, I'd be more than happy to answer questions or get you the answers you're looking for.
Yes, Commissioner.
Marcus Service. I am the Deputy Drain Commissioner. I do not know.
Neither do we. How often do you see him in the office?
That's not a fair question for me.
Yes, it
'cause
is. How often do you see him in the office?
I'm not in the office all the time, sir.
How often do you see him in the office?
I see him in the office probably a couple times a week.
Couple times a week.
Yep.
Anybody else see him in the office? All right, thank you, Marcus.
You're welcome. Thank you.
We got some more questions.
Okay.
Yes, Commissioner.
The Drain 101, is that something that could be made available online?
I don't know if it could be or not. I don't see why it couldn't be, but Stacy with Fahey Schultz said that they offer that class to do the education of just the basic drain rules and laws.
I think that would be very helpful for us, but I think it's something that for sure should be on the county website and made available, so anybody can learn that. I mean, that's part of the problem with these projects for, at least I live in the Bank County Drain, is that no one seems to know about it. So there's not easy, simple ways to learn it. People don't understand drains, they're not something that anybody really usually talks about a lot until there's a problem.
Yes, ma'am. And the drain code law that I provided copies of you guys to is also available online as well. You just got to search for it. I figured that would be the best way to reach all of our commissioners, would give them the hard copy of it.
Okay, so I have a few questions.
Yes, sir.
Speaking of the drains, do you have maps, or is it on your portion of the webpage a map? So like, like you come in here and say the Lee Drain, and we could search it, and then that way we could better serve our constituents by knowing what drains are.
Yes, sir. On the county GIS mapping, all the drains are mapped out on there, the open channel and the enclosed tile drains.
Okay. By name, so we could search on the GIS, the county GIS webpage, the drain by name? Can we search by area? Because like, some people might not know what the drain is called in their area.
But you can blow up the map, you can zoom in and zoom out as much
Okay.
as you want. So if they zoom into their home and then they continue to zoom back to see what the closest drains are, you can search by parcel and or by address, and then know what drains are around you.
Okay, thank you on that.
I believe there's a filter for the drainage district as well.
Okay, all right, so that way the public can go on there and search.
Yes, sir.
All right, and then, do you have, if a person was to go do that, do you have like a list of like what stage each drain is in? Like maintenance phase, or, because most drains, you typically run on a 30-year cycle, right? Or a 10-year cycle, to where you're doing continuous work, and then you go into a maintenance phase where, so if I was gonna buy a house somewhere and I just searched it, that way I could see, like, hey, 5 years from now, there possibly could be something coming down the road?
I'm not sure if we have something like that. I know that all of our ongoing maintenance, if anybody were to call, we would be able to explain to them where the ongoing maintenance is.
Okay.
If there's any assessments that are currently on a parcel that they were potentially going to buy, or if they were going to sell their parcel, we would be able to say what the assessment would be for that as well.
Okay. And then, looking across your itemized, items that you gave us, right? Question on, bids, RFPs. Do you, push them out? Are they public, or do you, or are you sole source items?
For petition projects or for maintenance?
Yeah, for everything.
So for the petition projects, it's a little bit different of a process. The bids are open to a larger pool of candidates. We have, for maintenance, we have a select list of contractors that are approved through the drain office that we use, but it is still a bid out process for that.
Yeah, because just,
For larger maintenance projects, excuse me. If there's a blowhole in the field, we'll contact one of our
pre-approved.
pre-approved contractors and say, go fix this.
Yeah. Good, I'm just, because when you go across that itemized sheet, right, there's a couple names that you see consistently, you know, and when you tally up, or you go to your table that had it by vendor, right, there's a couple of those vendors that, are a large portion of that $13 million that you spent, right?
Right.
So, you know, there's one contractor in there that doesn't do anything with dirt work. They don't move dirt. They don't, and you know, they're getting $2 million. So I know that's across all the drains, but I'm just asking that you push it out there. And do you have archive so you can see somebody, if somebody was questioning you, you would have evidence that RFPs were submitted out and you had multiple vendors bid on those projects?
Yeah, we keep records for, I believe it's a 5-year period. I'm not 100% sure on that, but yes, we do keep records of those.
Okay, all right. Do it, as Commissioner.
Yeah, Marcus, one more question. We were informed, it's in my district, but it's the corner of Vermontville Highway in Benton, of a blowout, and I think that was a private drain, is that correct?
That was not a private drain, that was the Hayes drain.
It was the Hayes drain?
Yes, sir.
So that was county drain?
That was a county drain.
Okay, and what did we have to do to repair that?
I believe that was I want to say it was a 24-inch tile, and we had to replace, I think, I want to say there was maybe around 50 foot replaced, and dirt had to be brought in to fill the hole, and
Okay. When was, just out of curiosity, do you know when the last time that drain was updated?
I do not. I spoke with John, the drain inspector, and he said that there's been multiple areas on that occur every year, and considering the age of it, that's something that should be, we should put more on the maintenance schedule to start replacing it, so we don't go through a petition with it.
Thank you. What's the composition of that? That's clay tile that was in there?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So it's been repaired.
Repaired. And a lot of times, when you have a repair like that, it's similar to a water main. I'm very familiar with that. Once you put a good spot in it, you'll open up another weak spot. So it's kind of a cat and mouse chasing it back and forth kind of thing. Once you put a hard, solid spot in there and make a good foundation, it just opens up for another spot to give way.
So that drain will be on the list for upgrade soon?
That drain will be on the list, and I think John is trying to analyze which parts he wants to start at.
All right. Do you know the approximate length of that drain?
Off the top of my head, I don't. I can get you that answer if you'd like.
No, I was just curious. Just, I mean, if it's going to be an extensive project or it's going to be something that could be done in a short amount of time.
Well, it's a longer drain, but I do know that, so our assessments we're only allowed to assess up to $10,000 per mile now, which is significantly more than what it used to be. They just changed that this year. It used to be $5,000 a mile. And that number also changes with inflation and will go up. So that'll be helpful and beneficial for all the residents to be able to get more repaired.
Okay. But there's no, no plans to increase the size of it because it's adequate at this point. It just needs to be repaired.
Nope, so in order to increase the size or to make changes such as that, you'd have to do a petition project. When you're doing maintenance, it has to remain the same. It has to say, so if it's a 12-inch tile, you replace it with 12-inch. But if it's an 8-inch, which is kind of not standard, you would upsize it a little bit to make your changes, but you can't go drastically from like an 8-inch to a 18-inch.
Okay.
That would require a petition to do that.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Is that all in the drain code?
Yes, yes.
Yes, Commissioner.
I just have one really quick question on that 101 class that you talked about.
Yeah.
Would that be something that would have a fee along with it, or would it be a free training?
The drain office would take care of that. There would be no,
And would you be conducting that, or would our drain commissioner actually be
it
conducting
would be
that?
the attorneys that know the law inside and out conducting that.
Thank you.
Marcus?
Yeah.
We had, we had some type of training that we could watch online on Zoom, and it was, because of the bank drain. It was trying to teach us something. Was that the training that you're talking about? Because that actually was pretty good.
That would be a different training. So that was just to educate the homeowners on where the assessments were going and how they were determined.
Okay, because that was pretty good. I mean,
Yeah, it was a beneficial
the
roadmap
drain
for those residents to see where the cost was coming from.
okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mark.
Thank you.
Moving on to construction codes.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
As far as my report, we have begun for the city of Grand Ledge, taking permits. We're in the process of processing, I think it was about 92 permits that DeWitt Township hadn't even done anything with, other than people had applied for them. They hadn't done any inspections or anything. So we're just moving those over to us. And then, you know, getting our feet wet with code enforcements and things like that, talking to Grand Ledge with some properties that have been lingering for them. We've signed a contract for the housing readiness grant. So they're gonna get started on that this month. Brandy and I will be working with them for our new zoning ordinance. I would suspect, and Brandy can correct me if I'm wrong, but we should have that probably completed at least by the end of the year, if not before. Other than that, I don't really, we were, for last year in April, and this year in April, we were down just a little bit in permits, new permits applied for, so that's good. My office is really picking up. Obviously, the weather has a lot to do with that, but I was a little concerned because we were so slow this winter, but things are coming back, and I think we're gonna be very busy this summer. Other than that, unless you guys have questions on that, that's all I have for that.
Does anybody have questions? No.
And I know the DCA is next in line, but if that's okay, I'll just jump to the planning and zoning. Right now, we have determined that the most the townships would ever have to pay would be $15,000 a year. That would be the worst-case scenario. If that were the case, I know Commissioner Barber, you had asked about the 25, the 50, and the 75.
Yes.
So if that were the case, if the townships were just to obviously pay 100%, it would be 15,000. If they were to pay 75%, it would be 11,000 roughly. If you guys were to pay 25%, it would be 40. If the townships pay 50,000, it would be roughly 8,000. If you guys were to pay 50%, it would be roughly, 81,000. If the townships were paid 25%, it would be roughly 4,000. And if you guys were to pay the 75, it would roughly be 122,000. We're still kind of working out the numbers for the departments. I talked to Connie and Claudine this morning, and we're hoping to have that together to take to Ways and Means for the budget next month.
How many jurisdictions? Because I know there was a couple cities that,
Yep.
that spoke here and said they were interested also, so,
So
What was
these
it like
numbers are
total
just
number?
for the 11 townships.
oh, that's, okay,
We haven't included any of the cities or villages. We kind of want to get this program set and get working with it, and then, start taking on a city or a village
okay,
slowly.
yeah. Yeah, because, like, what is your department running at? I mean, I know you said you were a little light on permits during the winter, but now it's starting to pick up, so.
Right.
I mean, you're running at 80%, 90,
For the construction part,
yeah,
yeah, I would say we're running about 80%, 85,
yeah, your capacity,
yeah.
okay. All right, yes, Commissioner.
Thank you, Chris, for the report. Going back to that plan that you put in place you were talking about, give us a typical scenario of what would a township would have to go through in that, what you outlined.
As far as, I guess I'm not sure I understand.
Well, you talked about the cost of participation, all that stuff, so if we were to go ahead with that plan, what would the townships then, what would they see different than what's operating today?
The real difference is we're still doing all the work. And we've had this discussion with the townships. Right now, if Brandy has a junk enforcement, let's say, and we've gone through the process, we've sent the tickets out, we've determined we need to take that to court, we get a court order for a cleanup. Right now, the way it is set up, the county pays for that, all the court cost and the cleanup. And by doing this and doing a contract with each township, it would be their responsibility. We would still do all the work, and we would write the tickets. We would notify the township that that's the point we are at, is writing tickets. And then if we decided it needed to go to court and get injunctive relief, we would contact the township, make sure they were okay with that. And if they were, and we went to court and got injunctive relief, it would be the township's responsibility to pay those court costs and to pay that cleanup.
Okay. So was that well received, do you think?
Yeah, I don't think any of them had any issues with it. They understood it. And then we would still, if that came to fruition, we would still file the paperwork with the treasurer's office for the to get it back on taxes over the next 3 years or whatever it is, for the township.
All right. So it doesn't put any liability, so to speak, on the township directly, it's still all within the county?
No, not any liability, but it gives them more involvement and more understanding of the process. Because right now, the way it's set up, Randy and I we just do it.
Now, do you see that primarily with just the general law townships, or do you think the charter townships will be in on that?
Well, right now, we don't have any charter townships under our jurisdiction.
Okay.
Yeah, Benton is on their own, Windsor's on their own. So, and they all do their own zoning.
Okay. And there's no conflict between a charter township and the county on zoning?
No.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
I do have, is that junk ordinance, is that a county ordinance, or?
It's in our zoning ordinance.
Okay. All right. Does any other commissioners have any questions? Oh, okay, thank you.
So the other thing I have is Brandy and I have put together a planning and zoning fee schedule. We'd like to update our fee schedule. The last time it was updated was in 2004. And the reason for a lot of these price increases is, you know, when we have a planning commission meeting, they all get paid, they get mileage. We have to send out mailings when we're doing CPUs and all of that. And it's just the cost. We're spending more than we're bringing in on the fees right now. So we're trying to offset that so that at least, at the very least, pays for itself. Private driveways, that is a very extensive amount of work, and usually that's a developer that's doing that. You know, and there's a lot of variables there. How many lots do they have? How long is the road? So there's a lot of work with that. That's why that price is where it is. So I guess for this, I'm asking you guys to allow me to take this to Ways and Means and get it approved through them.
All right, yes, Commissioner.
So I see pretty unilaterally on here, the fees are going up. Why is the mobile home going down to no fee?
Because we don't do that for
Okay.
point inspection.
Yes, Commissioner.
Okay, why would a person need a conditional use permit? Because back then it was only 200.
Conditional use permits are, let me see if I can, well, we just did one last night at the planning commission meeting. Grant's Wood Shop on Chester and Vermontville. It's a business, they make survey stakes. So it's on a private property, but they want to run their business off of that property. So that's what the conditional use permit is. And if you need a better description, I can probably have Brandy come up and give you a better description. Would you like Brandy to come up and talk about it?
It's fine.
Is that a yes, or?
She can.
Yeah, go ahead, Brandy, because I don't know really what a conditional use permit would be.
I shook my head that Mr. Garrison was doing just fine. So the $200 that you address is actually for a change of conditions. A conditional use permit, let me back it up. Each zoning district has 3 different ways that you can do things on your property: by right, by site plan review, and by conditional use permit. The site plan review is a subcommittee of the Planning Commission that includes staff and the Health Department, Road Commission, things of that nature, to make a decision about a certain proposed use of a property. The conditional use permit goes in front of the full Planning Commission. It requires the full Planning Commission. An example would be a light automotive and small engine repair requires a conditional use permit to operate from their property. An agricultural business for the sawmill requires a conditional use permit to operate from the property. A home business, some that you commissioners might recognize are a lot of our Amish stores. They have retail stores from their property. Those are home businesses. They require a conditional use permit from their property. The $200 fee that you reference is for a change of conditions. Within Article 9 of our zoning ordinance, if somebody has already been granted a conditional use permit, but they wish to make a change to their property, their site plan, or the operation of their business, even if they're building something for their own personal use, they're changing their site plan that was approved by the Planning Commission where that use was approved. They require what's called a change of conditions to their existing conditional use permit. The application process isn't any different. The cost to have a Planning Commission meeting isn't any different. Just by having the 9 Planning Commission members present to conduct a meeting, typically it's one application, is $450. That's not staff time with the application, that's not the site plan review, that's not the notice of public hearing, that's not the mailing to the neighbors within 300 feet of the property lines. Just holding a Planning Commission, and that's also not their mileage. So just by having them present, it's $450 for one meeting.
Okay, so if, let's say that they opened a shop, and then they changed their mind and they want to now build a pole barn to store a 1969 Mustang in, okay? So are you telling me then that's a change of site? So to build that pole barn, that they would incur this new fee?
That is correct. We actually just had that circumstance last year. An agricultural business, it's a horse boarding, breeding, training facility out in Eaton Rapids Township off from Cumberland Road. It's been in operation for, I think, 4 years now. Was there for many years, but then she wanted to open it up to the public. She got her conditional use permit. Wanted to build a personal storage pole barn on her property for her camper to be in. Proposed it as a change of conditions. Turns out after she was approved, it was the wrong size. She needed bigger. Had to come back to the planning commission for a change of conditions. That's great. Got home. Her husband told her the size was wrong again. So the zoning ordinance committee has looked at in the past the parameters of which would require somebody to come back for a change of conditions. That is back on the agenda for the zoning ordinance committee to consider again this year. But right now, yeah, any change to the property would constitute a change of conditions to the planning commission.
So they better know exactly what size that they would like to build.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thanks, Brandy.
You're welcome.
Yes, Commissioner.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the civil infractions / fines at the bottom right here. So I'm looking at like first offense, for example, moving to $250. Can you walk me through, let's say I violated junk ordinance, how do I get to the point where I hit that first infraction of a fine?
So currently, the way that I work the enforcement is I would always tell everybody I'd rather cut off my right arm than issue a ticket to a property owner because that money could more be used towards the compliance of it. But right now, issuing a $50 ticket for somebody that chooses to not respond to letters, not return phone calls, and not create a corrective action plan doesn't mean anything to them. So I issue a ticket for $50, they don't pay it, and then we automatically go to the magistrate to try to get an agreement together. And if they don't agree, then we have to go to the judge for the actual injunctive relief order. Having a $250 starting point, unfortunately, is a little bit more painful to somebody, and usually they will react quicker. It also puts it closer in line to what the civil infraction fees are for the construction code fee schedule.
Okay, and then what, I guess my main question was not so much on the amount of the fine, but what's the notification process, right, if I'm in violation?
If you're in violation, we are required to notify by letter in the mail and or post on the property. If the mail comes back, we post it on the property. We give 3 notices, so I send an initial, I send a final notice that reflects the initial, gives them a different date to contact me to create a corrective action plan, and then I send a ticket notice.
Great, thank you.
Yes, Commissioner.
Randy, I want to take you back to conditional use, and just so everybody knows that you're being fair in this, and I know you are, but our Parks Department had to file a conditional use change just recently to Crandall Park. Could you just briefly walk through that?
Walk through that application.
Yeah, and why we had to do that?
So the Parks Department, obviously Crandall Park is all of our parks are moving pieces and parts, but it has a conditional use permit to operate a commercial recreational facility. The Parks Department went back to the Planning Commission for a change of condition in 2021 and gained approval for the Stewart Road driveway, a bunch of passive walking paths, and some other structures. Since then, the Parks Department has a new strategic plan with an amazing plan moving forward for Crandall Park. But to make that plan come to fruition and to put in the proposed Flanders Road driveway, the 80 by 100 proposed beach houses, the 2 rental pavilions, and the other smaller pavilions along the walkway, that's a change to the actual site plan for the operation of the park, which is required to go back and forth to the Planning Commission for approval. And there are 83 neighboring property owners that we're required to notify of that by mail.
All right, thank you, Brandy, I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Yes, Commissioner.
I can tell you that if these fees were in place back in 2023, and this is just a rough estimate, it would have been about $35,000 versus a $4,500. So it's a big difference. But like, I don't know when you're going to be public budgeted. I'm just curious, who's going to pay the rent? That's why Mr. Garrison was having the conversation regarding townships paying in for planning and zoning services. Correct.
Currently, it comes out of the general fund.
Thank you, Claudine.
I do have one question. Going back to the fees, ballpark, right? Don't need to know the exact number, but how many first offense fees did you issue out last year?
2.
2? Okay. I just didn't want anybody, I wanted everybody to know that this isn't like a money grab, you know, like we're gonna jack up the first offense and we're giving out hundreds of them. So, okay, so 2 for last year. Thank you. That, it helps with your question? Right?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, I haven't really looked at zoning since I was at the Village of Diamonddale, but I wanted to make sure we were just giving people adequate time to respond to that infraction, and obviously we are, so thank you for refreshing my memory on that.
Okay.
Yeah, I can tell you that Brandy gives, she will do whatever she can before she has to write a ticket.
All right, so, we have on the, before us, the proposed fee schedule. Do I have a motion so we can move this to the Ways and Means? I got a motion and support. All in favor, signify with aye. Aye. Opposed? All right,
Thank you, everyone, and I'll let Brandy take over and talk about the DCA.
Yes.
So the Planning Commission met last night to discuss DCA 525-1 as the first proposed text amendment for the zoning ordinance of this year. There are several proposed changes. The first being a change to Article 3, Administration and Enforcement, to remove agricultural buildings from that section and place it in Article 6, which is our general provisions section, under the accessory buildings, which is kind of where it belongs. It's still its own section. To ease some of the concern of Eaton Township, I included in the staff report and in the language, Eaton Township was concerned, they denied the application. They were concerned that the proposed change violated PA 230 of 1972, which is the Stiles DeRosa Hale Single State Construction Code Act. Specifically, that act addresses agricultural buildings as a building permit is not required for a building incidental to the use of the agricultural purposes of the land of which the building is located if the building is not used in the business of retail trade. That act does not address zoning requirements in any way, shape, or form. The Planning Commission did recommend a change last night to that specific section. They added under item B, if the application and site plan comply with zoning ordinance requirements, the request shall be approved. So that was added to help alleviate any concerns that this was requiring more regulations than we currently do for agricultural buildings. So that's what the Planning Commission chose to do to help alleviate some concerns. Proposes to Article 6, already got that one in there. Proposed change to Section 7.4.A2A1 that's low-density residential, to remove the sliding scale requirement for accessory buildings. Right now, our zoning ordinance for those properties limits the number and size of buildings based on the acreage of a property that's zoned low-density residential, no matter where it is located. We have several low-density residential properties that are located in the middle of nowhere. Also, the proposed change is to remove licensing requirements and timeframe limitations for the storage of trailers, campers, and boats in the low-density residential zoning district. Why remove the licensing requirements? That's not a zoning powers thing that I can enforce. I have no way to look it up on lien. I can't ask an officer to look it up on lien whether something is licensed or insured. So that's, again, taking things out of the ordinance that we really can't regulate. The zoning ordinance committee didn't feel that if somebody owns a boat or a camper and it's their own personal and it's simply being stored on their property, they didn't feel that they should be restricted to 3 months on that. So again, this is taking things back to making it easier for property owners in Eaton County. Proposed change to Section 14 10.4 off-street parking requirements for the zoning ordinance. It is to change the livestock auction parking to take it to a square footage requirement, and that's to help offset the change proposed to section 14.1 agricultural businesses. Rather than only allow for livestock auctions as an agricultural business, the Zoning Ordinance Committee and Planning Commission is proposing to change it to an auction venue and to allow for indoor and outdoor auction space. Whatever that space would be, Article 10 is proposing that a parking space be provided for every 300 square feet of area used for that auction venue. This would allow an auction venue to operate on limited ag property. It would not restrict them to only farm equipment. So if they're selling for an estate, and that estate has farm equipment, but they also have household goods, they could legally, with a conditional use permit, operate on their property and sell those goods. What it would not allow for is a car auction, like the one that's up on the corner of Canal and Lansing Road. It would not allow for that type of auction. Because it's under an agricultural business, it would still have to meet some sort of industry need for our agricultural community.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Brandy, I want to speak specifically about Utzi's out here on Chester Road for their biannual or twice a year auction, I guess they have. Will this address or affect them in any way?
It will positively affect them.
Okay, in what way?
So we currently have an auction house that operates. They used to be a legal nonconformity, but then they moved. That auction house has been asking for a change so that they can operate legally and operate more than just a couple of times a year on their property. So this would allow them to apply and comply with zoning ordinance regulations without any issues.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yes, Commissioner.
So Brandy, is that going to affect the car auction there on Lansing Road in Diamonddale, Windsor area?
That is not in our zoning jurisdiction, so no. If it were a car auction, it would fall more similar to a new used vehicle farm implement dealer. We would put them under those provisions, but that is actually located in Windsor Township and not within our zoning jurisdiction, so no, it won't have any effect on them.
Okay, let's go to the estate situation. If you have somebody out there that has a 40, 80 acre farm or something, can they right now run an estate sale?
So estate sales on the property of where the estate belongs,
Uh-huh.
yes, they can.
Oh, okay, so that doesn't change anything.
This is for an auction venue that wishes to operate on their property and bring estates to their property to auction.
Oh, okay, all right. So, because I just kind of didn't want to restrict heirs for not being able to offer an estate sale.
Nope, this has nothing to do with that.
Okay, thank you.
In addition, if I may, there was a proposed change to the limited ag zoning district, specifically 7.3.2, which would have allowed for duplex dwellings as a use by right. There's a House bill going through to amend PA 110 of 2006 that could have some impact on it. That is the Zoning Enabling Act. The Planning Enabling Act, PA 33 of 2008, was updated last year to include language for allowing for some multifamily units on more broad zoning districts. Under the conversation, it was pointed out by a member of the public that the intent and purpose for limited ag specifically says single-family dwellings. The Planning Commission wanted to make that change last night. Staff was uncomfortable because when the public notice is made, it's for the specific section and where the change is going to be made, and it wasn't noticed for 7.31. So it will come back to the Planning Commission. It will come back to this board and the Board of Commissioners shortly.
Just to be clear, the resolution that's before them this morning contains the changes that they made at the meeting last night, correct?
Correct. Yep, the resolution before them is as amended by the Planning Commission at last night's meeting.
Thank you.
All right, any other, seeing no other questions, do I have a motion?
I make a
Oh,
motion
okay,
to make these changes to the planning and zoning.
thank you, I got it. All right. So I have a motion to support. All in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that carries. And then I'd like to bring up one other thing with planning and zoning. In the, I think it was, I don't know when it was like February or whatever is when you came up and we sort of sent you on this path of trying to find funding, right? And so you've done that and you explained it. And I would like to bring to this board that, I guess I move, in light of yesterday, I move that this board approves that the planning and zoning seek 100% funding from the townships to fund their operation. So I go ahead and move that, and then if somebody wants a second, we can open up for discussion. Okay, so I got a motion and a support, and is there any discussion for the board? Yes, Commissioner?
Yeah, no, go ahead, Claudine.
No, I was just going to clarify that it'll go as a recommendation to Ways and Means, and then Ways and Means could decide to undertake that immediately and make that effect immediately, or they could decide to make it effective October 1st, but it would be for the no more than 15,000 per township that Director Garrison had given to you earlier in the, in his report.
Thank you. I was just going to ask for written details, but if we're just going to send it through as a consensus, then that's all right. It'll probably be hashed out at, well, the next step would be Ways and Means then, correct? Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, with that being said, seeing no other, I have a motion and support. All in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right,
And then, Mr. Chair, you still need to vote on the resolution for the DCA.
we did.
Did you?
They did.
Yes,
You got, oh, okay,
yes,
sorry.
we did.
Melissa's a better note taker than I am.
Gotcha. All right, thank you very much, Brandy.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to the DIA.
Good morning, Commissioners. Just some general updates. We do have our event May 10th, this Saturday in Delta Township. So this week, the department's working on getting everything in line for event planning, and we're feeling really good about the events, which I'll talk about in a minute. And we're working on some education programs for the summer, in addition to MMP work. And as far as the county projects are concerned, May 10th, spring cleanup in Delta Township, we have about 800 registrations, which is actually incredible. We've grown from the last few years about 50%. And so the pandemic, as you know, changed a lot of services and participation in a lot of services. And so for our department, we're constantly looking at data pre-pandemic and post-pandemic because behavior has changed significantly. And so we did see a reduction in participation in a lot of our programs and events. And so working with Logan Bailey in the controller's office, switching over to an in-house registration system and being more targeted and active in some of our advertising, it feels really good to see those numbers go up. And we're also doing tires for the first time in Delta Township. And the response was so great that we had to order another trailer. So a tire trailer is about 1,000 tires. We hit that very quickly. And so now we're looking at filling up our second trailer. We also work with the Eaton County Road Commission on these programs and events. As you know, Eaton County Road Commission does roadside cleanup. And so the Road Commission is able to offload a lot of their scrap tires through our programs. And so we're really happy about that. We're looking at closing the events registration on Friday, and on Saturday, it's going to be 75 degrees and sunny. So we are very happy that the weather is going to be there. And going through the report, we are getting second quarter reports for SWAG. We have reports from Delta Township, Grand Ledge, Bellevue, Olivet. Charlotte asked for an extension, and we granted Charlotte an extension on their grant reporting. And so we'll expect them to get their report in, and we'll be doing our grant disbursements as soon as possible. The mobile recycling program, or the Eagle Infrastructure Grant, we just submitted our quarterly report, and with our quarterly report, and again, this mobile recycling program the intention is to service areas of Eaton County that lack services. So when we're looking at solid waste and recycling, most of the cities have curbside pickup, and we count that as access. But again, as we look in the more rural areas, haulers, it's not profitable for them to service some of these areas, and so we see low participation rates with recycling, and the intention of this trailer is to increase recycling rates and participation and access. And so with our last report, we're operating in Bellevue, Olivet, Vermontville, and Eaton Rapids. Our program started August 1st last year, and we've reached over 10,000 pounds of materials diverted from these communities, which is significant. It's something we're really proud of. And again, this material is going to Sunfield Recycling Center, where it's being baled and sold directly to manufacturers to be remade into new items. So we just submitted our grant, and the grant requirements are a 5% retention rate, and so it was a 3-year grant, but the department's going to be working with Eagle to close the grant out early so we can release the remainder of those funds. And we have a lot of ideas about how to make the trailer more efficient. We're going to be tinkering a lot with it. So the warranty's up in a year, so we will be making some modifications to improve our efficiency. The hub and spoke development, we're continuing to work with Calhoun County and at a net positive income. Again, Calhoun County pays us to receive their material, and the department, we get to bale and sell those materials. And so with the increased volumes from Calhoun County, we're able to send out more materials and increase revenue. So it's, from what we've seen with our cost associated with the program, it is a net positive revenue. And then again, with the recycling trailer, we have multiple communities feeding into the Sunfield Recycling Center now. Education, we are working on programs with the Charlotte Science Camp, the Conservation District, Eaton County Parks. I just spoke at the Eaton Rapids Rotary. It went very well. And the Charlotte General Federation of Women's Clubs. We spoke at, in addition to various district libraries and local schools. So, and in terms of education, the MMP, the Materials Management Plan, that process has been really good because we are getting closer relationships with haulers, and in the Materials Management Plan Committee and meetings and conversations, it's really nice listening to the haulers talk about the need for education with their bins, because no matter how hard you recycle, if you're doing curbside, if your neighbors are filling your bins with inappropriate or non-recyclable materials, there is a risk that all of that load in your neighborhood could be landfilled. So Haulers are struggling with education and what people are putting in and what's allowed and not allowed. Because again, the higher the contamination rates, the higher the cost for the haulers to sort and recycle the material, and at some point, it's cost prohibitive. And so it's easier just to landfill the materials. And so through the MMP process, in our education programs for the department, we're looking at revamping some of those with just basic recycling 101, what's allowed, what's not allowed, and really get us on board with getting higher diversion rates with the state mandate. And finally, the materials management plan. We met last April 8th, and the meeting consisted of discussing the work program. And again, the work program is essentially our grant application for Eagle. And with the approval of our work program for how we're going to be looking at data, acquiring data, we're going to be doing surveys, work groups, outreach, and in order to build up enough information to rewrite the solid waste plans for the county. The work program, once it's approved, we're looking at hopefully May 13th, getting it approved next Tuesday. And from there, it'll be moving to, because there's a grant component, it'll be moving to Ways and Public Works and Planning for approval, and then Ways and Means, and then to the full board, which is the county approval agency. So we're looking at, hopefully next month, we'll be bringing our work plan, and I can share and talk a little bit more about what the plan is for developing the materials management plan. I can speak more about the grant and how we're going to be spending the money, and answer any other questions. In addition, we've been in contact with Eagle. Eagle knows where we are in the process, and we have a deadline of June 30th for the work plan submission. I believe we'll be able to make that deadline. And Eagle's even offered to come in to speak to our committee or to the county officials if they have any questions for the state of Michigan in regards to the materials management plan, the mandate, the grants, or anything else. And so again, we're looking at approval next Tuesday if we make quorum. We do have a conference, a statewide conference, Michigan Recycling Coalition. So I'm working hard to contact people to make sure we make quorum. And that concludes my report. Are there any questions?
Yes, Commissioner.
Okay, I do. All right. I was on Public Works the first time I was in, and the recycling fee that's attached to the individual properties was covering the expense of running the department.
Correct.
Okay, so is that still workable to increase all these different things? I mean, are we still okay?
Yes, so the solid waste ordinance of 1993, when it was established, it charges a certain fee to curbside recycling, so 60 cents per household, and then commercial, we call them roll-offs, depending on the volume, 30 to 90 cents per. And working with our licensing program, the haulers collect that. And there's two ways that can go up. If more people we have increase in housing or population, and more people are paying into the trash services that are being offered, or the fee gets raised. And so the fee has not been raised since 1993, and so we're looking at just population growth for our department budget in terms of accounting for inflation. As you imagine, 1993 dollars do not go as far in 2025. And so over the last few years, Melissa can correct me if I'm wrong, but 2018, 2019, the department did start to draw from the general fund to cover programs and expenses. And so I've been working with the controller's office and Melissa, and we've been, for the past year, I started last February, and we've been working to really address, go through department audits and address a lot of our programs, what the costs are. And so we did go up for bid for some of our vendors for hazardous waste, batteries, electronics. So we're working to reduce those costs and improve the efficiency of the events. And long story short, we will have to make cuts to programs and services within our department, no longer having access to the general fund. And so we're working to make sure that we're able to provide the best services that we can within our restricted budget through the surcharge.
Okay, so you're saying it's 60 cents a month, right?
Correct.
Okay, and we get billed every 3 months, so at least we do. And so what would that be if we like raised it to 70 cents a month?
I,
That's what I'm saying, but look how many people we have.
Right. I have spreadsheets. I think maybe Melissa has seen them, but I've gone through different scenarios of where the surcharge is and what certain increases would amount to, and the effect that would have on the department. And from my analysis, going from 60 cents to $1 would more than cover all of the existing programs that we're running with general fund money. And the general funds that we were receiving were about $80,000 a year. So we'd have to cut $80,000 worth of services, but with an increase of up to $1, we could actually expand programs. And then the long-term vision for the county is to develop a hub and spoke model, where we would have recycling centers in most of the communities, geographically speaking, in the county, and we would be able to better meet the needs of a lot of the residents here. So we have looked at different scenarios with raising the surcharge, what amount would lead to what budget for our department, and then looking at what we could use that money for in terms of expanding services and programs.
Well, if we could explain it, we try to explain a lot of things here as to why things go the way they do, but mine would be that part of it might be to come up with an event like in the fall for, the major recycling like you're doing May 10th. And so maybe if they understood the cost of running an event, you know what I'm saying, whatever your events are that you want to do or have in mind or would need to cut, then maybe it would be workable. But obviously, if you've had a 50% increase from last year for even our May 10th event, we know that's popular.
Yes.
So I guess if we look at it from a realistic point of view, because when I was in the first time, we did have a supplement and we weren't taken from the general fund.
Mm-hmm.
So the next question I had was when you talk about Sunfield and then bringing in items from Calhoun County now and things, how many staff do you have out there that are doing the bundling and things?
Currently, we have 2 full-time staff. Myself and Debbie Penfield is our program assistant. And then we were able to hire part-time, so 20 hours a week. And his name is Matthew Kane. I don't think any of you have met him. Absolutely incredible employee. So he runs our Sunfield Recycling Center, and he's responsible for baling, managing the materials, and Sunfield is open Wednesdays and Saturdays, and he's there Tuesday, Wednesday, sometimes Fridays and Saturdays, baling at 20 hours. And he is actually at his limit. And so Debbie and I, we're often out at Sunfield working with him and helping out with materials management. So if you ever see me, I'm not in the office. I'm probably with the recycling trailer or out at Sunfield working to manage some of these materials. And if any commissioners would like a tour of Sunfield, it's really, we have a really incredible operation out there, and that's the model that we want to look at putting in other communities for our county-run programs. So it's like a warehouse, and we have the bales stacked up, and it's a very, very clean, well-run facility. And so, and I appreciate your question because we are looking at additional staff. It's budget neutral, but in our approved budget, we have a summer intern, and we're just looking at changing the nature of maybe more office, instead of office work, we want the intern or the staff position. It's gonna be 20 hours a week, be able to help Matt at the Sunfield Recycling Center with our warehousing operation, and then also work with us with the trailer, and we want to expand some services with the trailer, and we've reached our limits staff-wise. So we're really looking forward to adding up a part-time, budget-neutral position to help with a lot of the materials management, because it's a lot of work.
Well, if we did look at raising some more revenue through the haulers and things, because people keep saying that we don't communicate correctly, or however we're doing it, they're not getting the message. But maybe if we put flyers in their quarterly bills, that they'll read those and everybody would get one.
Yeah,
You know what
yeah.
I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
To explain it to them. I mean, it might take half a page to explain why this happened and how long it's been since it was increased.
Right.
You know, I mean, do our best like that to educate them, not just all of a sudden it shows up on their Granger bill.
Right. Yeah. Yep. I agree. Communication is everything, especially with. I don't think most residents here are aware of the surcharge. You get a bill and you pay it.
Yep,
So
tear it off and.
yep, and you figure someone knows more than you about those surcharges or those service fees, and most people move on. So I'm sure nobody's thought about even our fee, or a lot of people haven't. And we're also looking at, with our events, it was great speaking with the Rotary Club and the Federation of Women's Clubs. A lot of these organizations are looking to sponsor their charity and service organizations. And so in the next year, I want to work with our department and with the controller's office and look at how we can offer sponsorships to certain parts. So if somebody would like to sponsor battery collection at our events, that could be a very straightforward, easy way for other organizations to get more involved, service organizations in our events, and offer some funding to help us pay for these programs that are really benefiting everybody in Eaton County.
Sponsoring a tea at a golf outing.
Correct, yep.
Commissioner DeRosa.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Speaking of the trailer, I got a couple questions for you. What's a good day on that? Is it a half full, completely full, 2 trips a day?
Currently, our all-star community is Bellevue Olivet, and they can fill the whole trailer in a day. Vermontville is a smaller community, and we're looking at, they fill about half the trailer when we're out there. And Eaton Rapids, we're still relatively new, but they're somewhere in between. And so we're looking at, especially if we're able to add the new staff, looking at service hours and being able to increase maybe even Vermontville to weekly, because we were once a month in Eaton Rapids, and with a community that large, it was inadequate. So every Monday, we are in Eaton Rapids, and participation, we take data on everything that we can, and so we're looking at participation increasing week over week in Eaton Rapids. Bellevue, Olivet participation was already strong, and Vermontville, we're only in Vermontville monthly, and so people will hold their recycling for about a month, and then lot of cardboard and a lot of glass coming out of Vermontville, people holding on to it. And so, and we're, with the trailer, we're looking, different communities have different volumes of materials. And so every community we're in, we actually change the compartments, that's a good word. So we can add a compartment if they have a lot of plastic water bottles. We have 2 compartments for water bottles, and number 2 color, HDPE, like laundry detergent bottles. If a community doesn't have a lot of those, we'll put those in a smaller compartment. So we're always trying to be flexible and accommodate for whatever materials the community.
I'll just add that I did include his last report to Eagle in your packets, and it lists out the tonnage and what the products that recycling trailer has been collecting over the last quarter, if you want to take a look at that.
Thank you. And then the trailer in and of itself, is that at a break-even point yet? Or have we exceeded that for the cost of the trailer versus what it does?
Are you speaking to the cost of the trailer in terms of the capital investment or the operational?
Well, taking the capital investment into consideration, does it look like it's going to be just simply a break even? It's always going to operate in a deficit, or do you see it at some point that that's going to be profitable for and I think it profitable at this point would just be break even.
Oh yeah, I think as we continue and as the program grows, I think we can break even. Our biggest challenge right now is cardboard, just the volumes of cardboard that communities have. And for example, some of the plastics are about 6 to 12 cents a ton. Cardboard could be anywhere from 40 to 65 a ton. And so one idea that I've been working on is the trailer is inadequate for the volumes of cardboard, and so we're working on having maybe a separate cardboard program, or and the intention of that is if we focus more on cardboard and cardboard material acquisition and management and sale, we're going to be far more likely to break even and fund these programs through the sale of material than collecting plastic water bottles. So we're looking at the commodity markets every week and what these materials are selling for and where we should be putting in our efforts. And so I'll probably be up here again in the next year, introducing you to a cardboard program that we've come up with that we want to implement to do exactly that, to generate the revenue to make it break even, because that's ultimately the goal, is to try to get these programs to be cost neutral.
For those of you that aren't aware, the truck and trailer were purchased with a grant from Eagle. The county did have a match, but it was only 25%. So the capital investment is significantly less than what it would have been to purchase those things outright.
Yep.
I'm sorry, that kind of leads into my next question is, do you ever see a point where we would need additional trailer or trailers? But you already said, yeah, you're coming back, so.
Yep. Yeah.
We currently have an additional grant from Eagle that is for electronics recycling trailer. So the department right now is looking at options for purchasing a second trailer that just will be for electronics recycling. And again, that's a grant through Eagle.
All right, thank you, Claudine. And then one last question, and you may not have an answer to this, but should general fund funding for this program go away and you rely entirely on grants, where does that put you at, 50%, 80%?
Currently, it's about somewhere around a quarter to a third of our current fiscal year is, budget is coming from the general fund. So we would be looking at right around that 25 to 33% cut in our budget. And we've already been working since last summer, considering what we would need to do, to fall within our budget for the next fiscal year. And so working with the controller's office and Melissa, we're making adjustments. And in addition to that, like you, to your last question, which is relevant, hiring a new staff. I am very expensive, and Debbie is expensive. So if we can have staff that don't require as much investment in terms of fringe benefits, et cetera, we can really reduce the cost of the trailer and the operations. And with the MMP, the Materials Management Planning Grant, I am looking to put about 60% of my salary on the grant, because I will be working 60% effort on rewriting the solid waste laws and the materials management plan. And so with 60% of my salary being covered by the planning grant, for the next 3 years, we'll be able to free up enough budget to really have more flexibility with operations. Without the MMP grant, and that's still pending approval, we would have to look at far more cuts to our programs, which is what we don't want. Our job is to serve the community here. So with the grant, over the next 3 years, we'll be able to have a lot more flexibility in our budget without access to the general funds. And it's almost equivalent with the grant, what the general funds were cut. So, and then as discussed earlier, addressing the surcharge in the next three to 5 years would be ideal, to help with cost covering for inflation, et cetera, and expanding of programs.
I will also note that Jared has made substantial strides in reviewing programs and their operations and ensuring that the programs that we are funding through the surcharge are also cost effective and that they are meeting the community needs. I know this last year, Jared has actually made substantial changes in those programs and what is funded versus what has not been. And that has actually enabled him already to be cost neutral for this current fiscal year. The budget amendment or the current budget, we did not change with those reductions because of unknown costs with some of his recycling programs within the community. But he has made substantial strides already in addressing, knowing that these changes were going to come and that general fund monies may not be available.
Thank you, Melissa, and thank you, Jared, for your efforts in reducing that. So,
Yep, thank you.
Okay, you have on here on the agenda that appointments.
Oh, yes. We are, and thank you, Mr. Chair, for the Materials Management Planning Committee, we have an application. With the committee, we have required seats to fill that fill certain qualifications. A private business that generates recyclable or managed materials. The language is changing, so you'll hear me saying managed materials more and more. We have an application from Meijer. So Meijer has 3 stores in Eaton County, and they have their distribution and warehouse center here in Eaton County. And Meijer is also one of the top recyclers in Michigan. In addition to that, they generate large quantities of food waste. And so Michael Gray from Meijer applied as a business representative for the Materials Management Planning Committee. In your packet, we have his application, and the department is asking for approval of his appointment to the Materials Management Planning Committee.
Move the approval.
Or,
All right, I got a motion and support on that appointment. All in favor signify with aye.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner.
Yeah, how many of the 13 total are represented by businesses of like, so you said you have different requirements on how the membership is filled. So how many of that total 13 is represented by business?
Currently, we have Granger represented, Granger Waste Services. We have Waste Management being represented. And as far as specifically in the business community, those are the two major ones, and then Meyer will be the third. The remainder, we have a county official, township official, village or city official, and then in addition to that, we have a nonprofit working in the industry. We have a representative from Michigan Recycling Coalition, and then we have recycling centers all around the county, and so representatives from Delta Township Recycling Center and CARA, the Charlotte Area Recycling Authority, are also represented. So,
We'd be happy to send you a list,
Yeah.
Commissioner Toomey.
Is there, my question is there a minimum or maximum threshold on how many are from each membership category for the different types of membership? Like, is there-
just one per category for each seat. Does that answer your question?
So this person, like it says
Yes.
membership category on their application, it says business that generates a managed material. Is it like, okay, we can have 1 to 3 people from a business that generates a managed material and the rest have to be filled from elsewhere, or do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, so just one per category.
Okay.
So, and we did have multiple applicants for single categories. And if that's the case, usually we would ask them to attend and for the commissioners to interview and vet any candidates. And so for this position, specifically the business position, the department's been soliciting for over 6 months, various businesses. And so we finally got them and which to us is you should want to be on this committee and have a say in how waste is going to be managed for the next 30 years, especially if it's going to affect your bottom line. So we're really happy to get Meyer on board as our business representative, because that was our last seat we needed to fill.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yep.
if that person comes on from Meyer, and you just said that they're composting over in that direction, would we be part of some type of composting?
Yes, part of our materials management planning grant and committee, we're going to be looking at doing something like waste audits. So we're going to be looking at grocery stores, restaurants, schools, government, anything that generates food waste. And we really have no benchmarks on some of that information. And so bringing someone in like Meyer and the waste haulers, they don't handle organic waste. So we would look at municipalities. Municipalities are currently in charge of leaf pickup and yard waste. And so we're going to be surveying and working with local municipalities. And then Meyer being such a large player, they can tell us how much they throw away, right? So it's going to be very helpful in our planning process to get someone, especially as large as Meyer, with food waste and getting more data and information. Because again, about 50% of our food in the United States is thrown away, and up to 20 to 30% of our landfills are food waste.
I think that's a wonderful step forward if we could figure how to do that. In about 2011, I had the opportunity with a few other people from Eaton County here to go to the big compost site that U of M would have their food waste from the dorms and places taken to, and then the public could come buy the compost for their gardens and things. It was wonderful.
Yep, and we're going to be working with Hammond Farms. They have several locations within Eaton County, and they're Diamonddale. I would highly recommend a tour. They have an amazing facility, and they're part of the trade groups, and they have a Standard and Testing Institute certified compost. I'm a gardener, so I'm going to be ordering $500 worth of compost from them probably this week or next week for my garden. So they have an excellent product, and we have a representative from Hammond Farms on the committee. And we, so I misspoke earlier. We have an additional private sector. Yep.
Thank you.
From Hammond Farms. Yep.
All right, thank you. So we have a motion and a second on the floor for that appointment. All in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. And then, do you have any update for the planning committee?
I think he already covered that in his report.
Okay. All right, so there's been a, thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
All right, so there's been a change. The judge has to go. So once again, we're going to move juvenile up from 12, and we're going to put it at 10. So if you would like to come up and give us an update on your juvenile justice millage, please.
I apologize, and I thank the committee for your flexibility working around a docket this morning. And I want to just thank you for your time to come in and talk a little bit about what we do with the juvenile justice dollars that are provided to the courts. I did attempt to condense down the information about what we provide as far as services go across the board on a continuum, really, with the juvenile justice department. So we have two main areas that I'd like to discuss today, which is prevention, and then I'd like to talk a little bit about the funding. My understanding was there was some questions with respect to what we do for juvenile justice and how we attempt to prevent recidivism and prevent young people from getting involved in the juvenile justice system. And that starts right in the schools. So for years now, the juvenile justice millage dollars, child care funding dollars, and general fund dollars have gone to pay for truancy intervention. And I can say the most recent numbers that I have in our partnership with the RISA and with CMH show that about 63% of the young people that could come to court for truancy and other issues are diverted successfully from ever even coming into my courtrooms. And so I think that that demonstrates the partnerships that we already have with some of our community providers to be able to divert, again, 63% of young people away from the juvenile justice system for truancy-specific and mental health-specific issues. Once juveniles are actually within the juvenile court system, we're able to, again, I would say, prevent recidivism, prevent further issues with regard to mental health and substance use disorder. I attempted to provide just a real general overview of all the services that we within the court system already provide our young people with the dollars that are provided. One of our largest funding streams is the Child Care Fund. As I'm sure those who I've spoken to about this before have heard me say ad nauseum, it's a lot of work. Ms. Ballard and my team work diligently to make sure that we are getting reimbursed for every single dollar that we're able to from the state. 75% for any kids that we can keep within the community and 50% for any kids that we have to take outside of the community. I do think it's important just to note that really baked into what we do within the juvenile justice system, we are required to rehabilitate and not punish young people. And that's really how we've structured Eaton County's juvenile justice system for decades now. I am very proud of the work that we do here. Mr. Mulvaney and myself were presenting to 130 court employees and judges just last week about the models that we're able to present and provide for our young people within this county, with the hopes that that can then spread across jurisdictions throughout the state of Michigan. My understanding is the specific questions are, what are we going to do with the juvenile justice millage dollars? We're asking that the majority of those dollars stay within the court to help us fund those services that we do. Unfortunately, we know what happened with the millage yesterday, and we know that the funding is going to be tight. And so we are asking, to the best that we're able to at this point, to have those dollars stay within the court so we can continue to provide the level of services that we do right now without any kind of, I guess I would say, modifications. Otherwise, we will see an increase in recidivism and an increase in criminality within, we believe, the juveniles that we treat right now. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have for me specific to the materials I provided. Mr. Mulvaney, who runs our youth facility, is also here as well.
All right. Any commissioners have any questions? Yes, Commissioner.
Okay, so I'm one of them that has been watching the change in how we use these dollars. And I can understand that we had a wonderful opportunity to do the expansion over there at the youth facility. But part of my concern, and I'm fine with it until we get this up and running and, you know, the additional people, and I realize that your report that you submitted was that, you know, once we get going, we'll probably see some revenues, but it's hard to anticipate from other county youth that we might have. And, but I seen before that we had a couple of different places like in Eaton Rapids and Grand Ledge and things where our younger students could just walk over to after-school type programs and not be involved with the court. And part of it was also under the prevention umbrella, and that's how the juvenile justice millage was established. And I think that those were valuable situations also in our community. So I'm looking at some point that some of those prevention dollars actually are right there in the community for our students, for like mentoring programs and anything else that might need to be addressed, you know, when they come out of school not doing well. So that's all I had been asking. And I know that I was here in 2006 when we added the, so this is another question. I mean, that's just, so Judge, that's.
Can I respond to at least
Sure.
to that preliminary issue? What I would say is that what the juvenile court does already is prevention within the communities. Our probation officers are in the schools every single day.
Oh,
We're meeting with youth every single day. The kids that do come to court, we're able to successfully divert from formal probation, but we still monitor them and provide them referrals and services without having to have formal adjudications and criminal records. So basically, their adjudications are put on pause while we're still providing services to them. So they may have some issues that bring them to the court's attention via a petition, but we're still providing them with the services that I've listed. They may not end up with formal adjudications on their records. We also are able to provide, and I sort of glossed over it in the materials, we actually do provide prevention services in the form of status calls, where if parents or people within the community have concerns about young people who have no involvement in the juvenile justice system, we will go out to meet with them, or they can come to the court and meet with us. And we provide referrals to community service providers. We provide them with tours of the facility, explain what the juvenile justice programming can look like. So even though we aren't in schools installed, we are actively meeting with these young people in the community, whether they're court involved or not. So I would say.
I'm not trying to find those type, Judge.
I'm sorry?
I'm not trying to find those type children. I'm trying to make it so that there's a positive situation when we have them after school, like middle school and early high school age children, so that they're not identified anyplace. I'm just saying so that there's like mentoring or whatever, like the Yes House was in Grand Ledge, which was very successful. Like Eaton Rapids has had a nice place over there. And that's how we enhance our community relations. I'm not looking for all of them that their parents are like having an extreme difficult situation where they might end up in our courts. part of that juvenile justice was set up for community as well. I mean, if you go back in 2005 or before that, when it was set up, you'll see how it was originally written. I know I spent hours reading RFPs when I was first in the first 6 years. So I know what we were, I mean, a lot of it went, yes, to pay for the addition that we approved, okay, and brought in the classrooms and the, you know, transitional space over there for our kids that couldn't go home after they had been here. And so I know about that. I'm just like, and I'm okay with the youth facility. I mean, we were just like special getting what came from the state so we could add on. Because there is such a shortage. I mean, there isn't a regional commission meeting or whatever that I go to through MAC that they're not yelling about what do they do with these youth. And we know what to do with them because we have a nice facility and we have Jeremy Mulvaney. So I'm quite aware of probation officers. I've talked to enough being in the school systems. So, okay, go ahead.
I didn't know if you said that you had a second question.
I had a
Really?
second
Yes.
question. And my second question was, we're contracted now with Grand Ledge, and we have been for quite some time.
The public school, yes.
Are they under the regular contract that our Grand Ledge Public School teachers are under when they're teaching over here?
That's my understanding, is that we actually employ and contract with 3 full-time teachers through Grand Ledge Public Schools, so they are Grand Ledge Public School employees.
So they're under the same contracts with health benefits and wage scales and things like that?
Mr. Mulvaney's more familiar with that contract, so I would
Okay,
allow him
thank
to
you.
speak to
I
that.
appreciate your time, Judge.
I'm here to answer any other
Are you
questions, too.
speaking in terms of their union contract?
Yeah.
It's actually a little bit different. I don't know the particulars, but Dr. Barnes comes over regularly and speaks with the teachers, does supervisions with the teachers. I know there are some differences. I just don't know what exactly they are, but they are actual Grand Ledge Public Schools
I
employees.
was just in a meeting with Bill Barnes this week, like Monday, on something else. But, okay, well then, are you in charge of the contract or is Superintendent Barnes in charge?
We both collaborate on that contract, and we review the contract every year after the school year to make sure that the contract has all elements that make sense for both parties. So we
So I
collaborate
can
on it.
come talk to you, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mulvaney.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Parks and Rec.
Good morning, Chad Powers, Facilities Director. Alex, our Parks Director, has been out sick for a few days this week, so myself, along with Deputy Director Ethan Jacobs, and yeah, I think Claudine's gonna weigh in on a few of the items too as we go through. I'm gonna jump around a little bit. I noticed that your agenda doesn't align exactly with our Parks report, so there's a few things that I'll hit, and then we'll circle back to towards the end or further on in the agenda, more specifically. The first thing I'm going to start with, and you heard from our planning zoning administrator, Brandy Miller, earlier, and Commissioner DeRocha, but we submitted to the Planning Commission for a conditional use change permit with Crandall Park, and they expanded on that pretty good. The first step in that process is we met with the Eaton Township Board last week, myself, Alex, and Claudine, and got a unanimous approval from them to move on in the process. So it's in their township, so they hear it first, and that's how that process works. So we were there, presented on that, and had a lot of good questions from both the members of the board as well as members of the public. So that went really well. Next thing I'm going to move on to is our staffing, our seasonal positions. We've had 51 applications submitted so far, and we've got 5 currently working and 4 more ready to start here early June. And that's 9 total. I think we're gonna ramp up to 10 or 12 before the season's over. And we stagger them like that. A lot of it is younger folks that are still in school, maybe their first job, so they'll come work with us. The college students get out earlier, so we can start them in May, this time of year, and then the high school kids, once they get out in June, we stagger. They can work different amounts of hours, and we have a couple of retirees that work with us that can work further into the fall by doing it that way. So that's for our seasonal positions. Last month, the board approved a groundskeeper foreman position. We've had 10 applicants, and we have moved into our second round of interviews later this week, so we hope to be making a selection early next week, early to mid next week. So has some very qualified candidates, and I was pleased with the response. So other news, we have completed our second quarter water testing. For the parks, Fitzgerald restrooms have been de-winterized and open for the season along with Fox, and the seasonal startup water samplings that we do, those have also been submitted through the Health Department, Environmental Health Division. The codes have been reprogrammed and changed out at Crandall for the season. Obviously it gets darker in the wintertime, so the bathrooms close earlier. We've reset those so the public can use those later into the evenings as daylight allows. And then it's the Nature Center at Fitzgerald. We've got it disconnected and made safe through Consumers Energy. That was last month, and we're getting ready to get started with contractors as far as demolishing that building, along with there's an old dock there near the dam that we wanted to get that stuff done and complete out of the way before the majority of the wastewater treatment work gets started. So we were out of the vicinity. So with that, I'll move to the Fitzgerald Stairs project. We submitted an RFP for contractors through our design firm and received 4 proposals for the project. On the 25th of April, we opened the bids, and I believe they're listed in your packet there, lowest to highest. And yeah, those are the 4. And later in our agenda here, we'll make a recommendation for a budget amendment to move forward with the low bidder. We've interviewed the 2 low bidders, and I'm confident with moving forward with the low bidder, and we look forward to getting that project started. Do you have can you move to the slide that shows the drawings or there you go. The next one there. The next one. Okay. So the shaded portion on the top or left-hand side of the screen, that's the top side of the bank, if you will. And then it moves downhill towards the river, which would be at the bottom right hand. Now you flipped it on me, so I'm back. One more. There you go. So north is up, always on construction drawings. The shaded portion is the top half, which would be a paved asphalt approach, and that will continue back to the west. And as I mentioned, that the total length of that is about 80 feet, and it changes elevation from top to bottom about 35 feet. So it's a pretty substantial drop due to the ledges there. And there was a staircase there in the past. It was old and dilapidated. It was removed a few years ago, and this is our proposed replacement of that. And you can see there's a little lookout area at the top of the stairs, a landing with a bench kind of halfway down, and then it moves on down to the lower, and that gets you down to the Ledges Trail along the river. So obviously that's a pretty big project for us. We've been moving, we went through design and we're trying to get that going. So that'll be one of our budget amendment asks here when you see those later. With that, I think that's all I have for updates on the operations and overall department update. I'll turn it over to Ethan Jacobs with the events and so forth. So, and then Claudine, you can comment on the community grants.
Not so fast, Chad.
Sorry.
Not so fast.
Almost got out of it.
This stairway that's proposed here, and I know we talked about yesterday, this does not extend it all over any of the water, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and this is just to replace the stairway that had been removed.
That's correct.
So the elevation changes to get you from the top down to the river level
Correct.
to that trail that's not complete, correct?
That's correct.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Morning, Commissioners. So for my update, I'm going to go through some of the events and projects that we've kind of gone through the past month. So we've concluded Annie's Big Nature Lesson. Annie's Big Nature Lesson, for those that don't know, is an organization that we work with to bring classrooms out to Lincoln Brick Park for a whole week of nature lessons. So that is done for the season. This year we were able to reach out and work with 10 different classes from the greater Lansing area. And then this past Friday, we had 2 classes from Charlotte that participated in our Salmon in the Classroom release at Fitzgerald Park. So Salmon in the Classroom is it's a program run through the DNR, and these classes, they raise Chinook salmon all throughout the year, and then they find a waterway that has been deemed usable by the DNR, and they come out and we give them a lesson on aquatic macroinvertebrates, as well as help them get their fish acclimated to the water and released into the ecosystem. Last week, we also participated in the prairie burn at Lincoln Brick Park. We burned roughly 15 acres of the prairie to help, stimulate that positive growth in that ecosystem. So hopefully we'll start to see the benefits of that here in the next couple of weeks. We also participated in the Earth Day open house at the Grand Ledge Library, just talking with kids and families all about what we have offered at the parks in regards to events, programming, things that they can come out and enjoy. We've also partnered with Scouts of America recently to get some owl boxes made for Lincoln Brick Park, just to provide that habitat for some of our migratory owl species. In June, we will be partnering with the Delta Library for their summer reading program. We'll be at their open house on June 7th, and that'll go from 10 to 12. And then we have also started taking rental requests for our recreation trailer. So far, all we have scheduled is June 14th for the Rotary Community Block Party, but this is a great resource for a lot of our communities. We've got people that can come out, bring this rec trailer, get families up and moving, and engaged with some of the fun stuff that we can offer in that trailer. Let's see here. Okay, the Lincoln Brick Nature Center renovations, I believe you guys have some photos in your packet that show some of the different exhibits that we have been working on. So the goal right now is to have this finished by the end of June, early July. And for a while, this facility was just being used as a storage unit, but the goal is to have this open so families, kids can come in and get some hands-on learning all about some of the different things that we have in the Grand Ledge area. So for example, if you scroll back up, we've built a model of the ledges with some of the other components that you can find out on the ledges there. So we've got some lichens, some liverworts. And this is going to be an exhibit all about the geological history of the area, as well as the history of the small coal mines that we had in the area. And then this will also help educate students about the brick making process, because they were taking that shale from the quarry and using that in their clay operations. And then if you scroll down, so we also have built this sand table so kids can come and learn all about tracks. You know, they can interact with those different print molds that we have. So when they're out on the trail, they know what they're looking at. And then we also have a stream table. So this stream table will be used to help educate students on the Grand River. We use it all the time with our nature lessons through Annie's Big Nature Lesson. And it just kind of helps teach students how erosion takes place in a riverine ecosystem and how that can change over time. And then if you look on that big bird's nest, that exhibit is, so that monitor and that control panel is connected to a large camera that we have above our prairie. So at that exhibit, students will be able to get a bird's eye view of the prairie, kind of get an idea of what it is like to have that adaptation of flight, as well as just give them a different angle of looking at one of their public parks. And so in a little bit, when we're going through the budget amendment section, so one of our budget amendments requests is for the interpretive center renovation. We're looking to get 4 different monitors. 2 of them will be interactive, so when people come into the interpretive center, they, we can update those monitors with new interactive lessons, as well as any new information as we move new exhibits in and old exhibits out. Now, before we get to that, for the summer camp, at the last board meeting, the summer camp manager position was approved. We've had a few different applicants for that, and I believe that we have landed on one that we are going to be going with. We currently have 2 counselors hired for the camp, and we are still continuing that process of going through interviews for our summer camp counselors, but we're way ahead of the schedule with that. And then July 12th, that'll be our car show. Any quick questions?
Correct, it all comes out of the Parks Millage funding.
You move all three of them in as a group? Okay, I got them.
There's a page, there's more than that, there's a whole page of budget amendments.
Is there?
Scroll down to 189. Yes. Sorry, one more. There you go.
Yeah, I've seen those.
So there's the sign that we briefly talked about last month out at Crandall, and the fish stocking. We talked about those last month. A request to install a kayak rental. It's a cage with, you can rent kayaks and paddle boards and stuff out of it. Foundation for that kayak rental, the interactive projectors that they just talked about, and then the staircase replacement the director of physical plant talked about a minute ago. Those projects do include some contingency costs, but altogether, the total for all of them is $263,000.
Who's gonna man the kayak rental station?
So the kayak rental station, Alex could talk more on that, but to my knowledge, it is all automated. So patrons can come in.
Really?
Yeah,
Correct, it's an app you download on your phone,
yeah.
and then you're only charged for the time you have the kayak out, and then you're also responsible for any damage or missing pieces or whatever.
Oh, like the Lime scooters that are all over MSU. Okay.
That's smart. Okay, so, yes, Commissioner.
So I wasn't there yesterday. Did the park work group talk about the staircase replacement?
Yes.
Do you think it's a good idea?
I'm looking at, we're at that meeting, so I was looking at you.
Oh, I'm sorry, can you repeat your question, Jane?
Well, you know, we used to do these community grants, and I know that this funding isn't coming out of that pot, but there's another $200,000 for Fitzgerald Park. On top of, you know, it just seems like maybe that's a little bit too much, but I wasn't there for the conversation yesterday.
Well, we're responsible for that stairway, and it's been how many years since it's been taken down, and we had to get bids and that sort of thing. It isn't cheap, you're right, but it's got a, 30-year lifespan? That's the proposed lifespan for that. So, and there was some brief discussion about the stairway versus a ramp, but it was determined that a stairway would work better, given the consideration of its location and the fact that the trail at the bottom really isn't handicap accessible. So this was the best alternative.
Are there, I might be off topic, but are there other big ticket items like that in the plan for Fitzgerald Park over the next few years?
I would say the paving that we're talking about is probably not included in the budget, correct? So that would be a budget amendment as well moving forward.
It would be.
I'm not sure how much it is. They want to do some paving in all of the parks, so yeah, it could be that much realistically. It's a lot of paving.
Not currently. We have trail maintenance that we have to do on some of the things, but not current, revamping. This is a big ticket item, obviously, to replace those stairs.
I'm just wondering if there are more, capital size things that we're doing.
Only because we don't own that park.
Well, I mean, we have a millage to do these things, and I assume that we have the money to do this.
Right.
And I would amend my amendment or my motion to include this whole list.
I got another question on the floor here. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Are we moving all of them?
What?
Moving all of them? All right, cool.
Oh, okay, that was your question?
Is that support?
Yeah, I'll support it. I guess it's not really, I just had a question about the staircase at Grand Ledge. So I just visited Fitzgerald Park. Is this the staircase that is, I don't know, it's got like a gate, not a gate, maybe like a chain in front of it or something blocking it off?
Yeah, so it was, I believe it had an old rotary arch. at one
Yeah,
point.
yeah. I just went there. That thing actually looks pretty dangerous. I would probably like to get that replaced. I know exactly what you're talking about, so thank you.
Okay, so we amended your motion to include, what is that?
263.
Yeah, for the amount to 263,000. Are you going to amend your support?
Yeah,
Okay,
I still support it.
okay. So I have a motion and a support. All in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the budget amendment is passed. All right,
Any other questions?
okay, seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Last piece of the Parks report is the community grant applications. There's a resolution in your packet. It's on page 189 if you're not following on the screen. The applications that are recommended are listed there. You'll see the grant request exceeded the allocated amount of $400,000, but the committee did stick with the $400,000. They are not requesting any additional funding. and the recommended grant funds are on there along with the projects. There were 4 projects that were not funded out of the 12 that were submitted.
Move the community grant program recommendations for cycle 3.
All right, I got a motion and a support. All in favor, signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you.
I believe that completes the Parks report unless you have
It does.
something to add.
It does.
Or I just wanted to mention the pictures that you saw of the interpretive center. All of that stuff that was done was through Ethan and his team of 2, 3 at sometimes over the winter. So they're super creative. They did a very good job with it. And I encourage you to visit that because it's museum quality stuff that we did in-house. We didn't have to contract that. So that's the type of team we have with this stuff at Parks, so.
And I will say, I'll second Chad. If any commissioners want to come out to Lincoln Brick, I'll give you a full tour, so.
I get a question for Ethan before he sits
Yes.
down. Ethan, where's the hidden Easter eggs in that display thing?
Oh, and so that was also a team effort. I didn't hide all those. You might have to ask Claire on that one. I think she was at that.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
All right, thank you. Now we're moving on to veteran service.
Yep, real quick. So we did not have any expenses out of Q1 for the MVAA budget because of when the grant was actually signed and approved. So these expenses are Q1 and Q2. So this is for staff. For 1 veteran that was provided service at the dental clinic, 2 veterans were provided financial assistance with their VA co-payments. Our MiFi wireless bill for our veteran service officer to work remote if when necessary is in there. And we gave out 20 $100 grocery cards. So for Q1 and Q2 expenses, that's $13,530.30. That's out of the grant amount of $71,598. So we are still well below what we anticipate spending for the grant year, which ends September 30th. The veteran service officer held 185 appointments or interviews, whether here in the office or over the phone or remotely, and I have a breakdown of the services he provided further if anybody would like to see that. And that completes the report.
Do we have any questions? I have a question. Just for those, you said 185,
185 appointments, so
Yeah,
whether it be an in-person one or over the phone. Yep,
So-
and it could be the same veteran more than once.
okay. I know they probably don't track it this way, but do they sort of like know the age? Are most of these appointments from older veterans or?
There is a category.
Okay,
There is a category called aging and elderly veterans, which is 70 plus, and he served 12.
oh, so most of them are under 70? Okay. All right.
20. Yeah, they're $100 gift cards, and you can only get 1 per month.
Okay. No other questions? All right. Now we move on to miscellaneous.
Well, real quick.
Yeah.
Brad emailed me, and I believe he said he emailed you, Keith, Brad Funkhauser from E-Tran. He just wanted to clarify that when you had asked about fares for each agency, he said it was $1.50, and he just wanted to clarify it's $2.
He sent me a text.
Yeah, he said he did. I
I'm
just
being
wanted to
polite
let the.
and didn't look at it, so, okay. All right, so we're open for number 13, limited public comments. We still have a few people in the audience, but no comments? Okay. All right, then that puts us at adjournment.